You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Glad you could join me here today on this Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday, where we are going to be talking about digestive issues. We're going to be talking about IBS, constipation, loose stool, or anything to do with the intestinal-based tract, and more importantly, how it affects our overall mind, mood, energy, and wellness. So the reason why I want to go to this subject today, the reason why that I want to go a little bit more in depth is that I talked about this about 2 weeks ago. And I went over in episode 1335, the two main causes that people are not well right now. They're not able to lose the weight and they're aging at a faster rate. And one of those was digestion. So we have to look at the digestive system as so much more than just do we get bloating or do we get gas or do we get acid reflux or are we constipated? Do we have loose stool? It's so much more than that. So if your digestive system is not functioning properly, you are going to have a lot more stress on the body. And that's because your gut, it's about 26 to 28 feet or so long, is directly connected in terms of the nerves to the brain itself. So we have something called the gut-brain axis. So your digestive system can actually affect the brain and the way that you think, your psychology. It can lead to lower mood. It can lead to depression. We know this because we can actually look at the bacteria in the gut and see how that it could cause depression. We also know that it can lead to anxiety. So these things that we know with the brain itself, but also if it takes a lot of energy to break down your food on a daily basis, it's going to draw the life energy out of your body. You need to be able to break down the food that you put in your body. If you're not able to break that down to the best of your ability because part of the systems of your body are not functioning properly, and I spoke about this previously on how this works with the digestive system on the podcast, is that that's going to take a lot more of your energy. It's one of the reasons why people have less energy. They're feeling more fatigued in both mind and body. It shows up as brain fog in the brain. It shows up as short-term memory loss, inability to recall names and events and those types of things as well as just clouded thinking. You know, you're just not as fast on your feet as you used to be. So what does that mean? Well, it means that as your body starts to have less and less energy, you also have less energy for the digestive system. And your digestion takes about a third of your energy for the day. So what I try to do is I always look at this area when people come into the practice. Now, it might be totally fine, and that's great. So now we don't have to work on that, and that's fantastic. But if you have not assessed your digestive system, I hope that today's podcast is helpful. Because what we want to do today is we don't understand that a lot of the issues we have right now with our immune system and even with cancer is that our body's worn down. It's really run down. And it's not just about sleep. It's about the daily activities we go through. It is about sleep. It's about rest. I've been talking about that the last couple of weeks on the podcast as well. But it's about how well our digestive system functions. A lot of the theories right now into how cancer cells are allowed to proliferate in the body is, well, yes, some people believe that it's candida or yeast-based. A lot of people believe that it's pH changes not of the blood, but actually at a tissue level. Some people believe that it's a mitochondrial energy-based level, that if you can boost the immune system and that you can increase your energy, well, what happens is that your body can then, your immune system can actually begin to differentiate cells versus cancer cells versus healthy cells. So regardless, and maybe all of them are true, regardless, what we want to do is start with what gives us life. And the food that you put in your body gives you life. Because without it, until we find another solution, until we all become, I think, breatharians, what we need to do is to better extract the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, the enzymes, the life from the food that we eat to give us life. And that is, again, it can work for you, it can work against you. If the digestive system is broken down, when you put food into your body, it begins to ferment. It creates bacteria. And that bacteria, that fermentation-based process, begins to look like acid reflux. It begins to look like indigestion. It begins to look like bloating, right? Or gas or loose stool or constipation. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the main reasons why people can get the bloating and they can get gas and they can get constipated and what we can do about that. Now, one more point, and I talk about this all the time on the show, so forgive me if you've heard this before, but a lot of people go to their GI specialist. I mean, this is a specialist, right, that went to medical school, and you go in and you see them and you say, you know what, I have bloating. And you know, it's like anything I eat, it seems to give me bloating. And they say, oh, well, you have IBS. And you say, oh, okay, thank you for the diagnosis. Great, now I know what I have. And then you go home and you Google IBS, and it says irritable bowel syndrome. And then you kind of take a second and you think, did I really need to go to this specialist for them to tell me I have irritable bowels? I already knew I had irritable bowels. All they did was add the word syndrome to the end of it to make me feel better that it's a real thing. So what does that do? It doesn't solve anything. That's why I'm not against conventional medicine. I hope that, you know, I never need it. I hope that my family never needs it in terms of like emergency or acute-based care, but I'm certainly happy that it's there. We do need it. Like at some point in our life, we'll need it. There's no doubt about it. But to tell somebody they have irritable bowels, I mean, that to me is crazy because they're left with, okay, I just have irritable bowels. Maybe it's genetic. I don't know. Maybe everyone in my family had irritable bowels. But the problem is, it doesn't help anybody. This is not helping anybody. How do we help these people to suffer less? And no, you should not just put them on drugs. If they have acid reflux, no, they should not. We know they shouldn't go on acid blockers. It says right on it, don't use for more than 2 weeks because this could cause a host of side effects. Right? I mean, you can be letting parasites into your system. It could lead to Barrett's esophageal-based issues. So here's the thing. We need to find a root cause. There's always a root cause. I want to go through a lot of that with you today. And I mean, so many people, the majority of the people come into our practice, 2/3 of the people have some type of digestive issue. Most of what we see, yes, there's hormonal issues. Yes, there's menstrual cycle irregularities. There's men with lower testosterone we see. There's migraines. There's autoimmune. But what we're really looking at is what are these underlying root causes? Let's talk about some digestive ones here today. So what I want to go over is this. That there could be serious reasons for bowel-based issues. Intestinal. Whenever I say bowels, I mean intestines. When I say intestines, I mean the about 21 to 23 feet of small intestinal tract and about 5 to 6 feet of your colon, which is your large intestine. So basically, just a quick refresher on the digestive system. You swallow food, it goes down your esophagus, it goes into your stomach, which is not near your belly button. It's right below the middle of your rib cage, right below your sternum, where your xiphoid process is, where you would give someone the Heimlich maneuver. So right below, that's where your stomach is, okay? Below that is actually your small intestine. So what happens is when you eat food, fruit, that will be digested within about 30 minutes. And if you have some light starches, maybe an hour, and some heavy protein meals or some thick fibrous-based veggies, those will take anywhere from an hour and a half to maybe 3 hours. And again, it could be in there longer depending on how your digestive system is. Well, after that, it flows to the right side under the rib cage where the stomach empties. And that is called the duodenum or the gastric valve, where this food moves out of the stomach very slowly, about a teaspoon or so every minute or two. And then it moves into the intestines, and then it flows through about 21 feet of small intestine. And that's all around the belly button. If you were to draw kind of a circle around your belly button, maybe about like 3 inches let's just say about 6 inches in diameter, and you drew a big circle, well, that would be about your small intestines. Now, your large intestine, it actually goes then, it opens through the end of your small intestine, called your ileum, and it goes up to the cecum, and that's called the ileocecal valve. And that's right around the bone on your hips on your right side. So we get the opening from the stomach on the right side, and we get the opening from the small intestine, large intestine on that side. Now, it flows back uphill to the ascending colon, straight across about an inch or so above your belly button, maybe just an inch and a half to 2, depending on your size. And then it goes all the way straight across and then down your left side to that left bone on the hip, right in front of that will be the descending colon. So it goes transverse colon and then down to your descending colon. There's no quiz at the end of the show, but I just wanted you to know how the bowels work. So when a lot of people say they're bloated, they're actually talking about their small intestine. Now, some people have colon-based issues, there's no doubt about it, but a lot of people, when they think about their stomach bloating, it's actually their small intestines, right? So the small intestines, they're supposed to be more sterile than people really know. They're not supposed to have an overload of bacteria in there. And it's mainly supposed to be lactobacilli or lactobacillus-based, acid-based bacteria. And that's because it's a slightly acid pH in the intestines. That's why when people talk about acid and alkaline, they make it too simple, right? It's just like, oh, that's no such thing as acid and alkaline. Well, technically, yes, it is. And if your bacteria in your small intestine is too alkaline, meaning above a 7.0 pH, you're going to end up with bacterial overgrowth. So, whenever anybody tells you that acid and alkaline is made up and it doesn't really count, well, they have to go deeper, right? There's levels to this, and they have to peel back that onion to say, what are we really talking about? Are we just talking about the blood? Sure, the blood's going to maintain about that 7.356. Don't go above 7.5, don't go below a 7.2. You don't have to worry about that. Your body does it on its own. Now, it uses mineral stores to do that, but we'll save that for another show. So here's the thing. That's how the digestive system works. And then it flows out of the body. Hopefully, when you eat food, it comes out within 12 to 24 hours later. That's normal. If it sits in there for more than a day, it's going to really start to ferment, and it's going to cause bloating and bacterial overgrowth. That's an issue. So the major issues that it could be is colon-based cancer, or it could be neurological issues like MS or Parkinson's, something more severe. Now, most people aren't going to have that, okay? That's not the majority of people. Now, it's still good to be able to run a CEA blood test with your doctor to check for colon cancer, things like that. But again, this is not the issue most people run into. Let's go over the issue that most people will run into. And one of the first ones is this. Stress will shut down your digestive system. So we will work with so many people. I'm going to go through this in a minute of the big four reasons why people have digestive issues. And I'll talk about those. It's not just like the lack of fiber. It's actual digestive-based issues. So I'll talk about those. But stress is the only other one that after you get rid of those four can still cause the bloating, and it can still cause the constipation or loose stool. So what stress does, though, is it changes what's called bowel motility. Some people, when they get really stressed, they have diarrhea. They have loose stool. They get nervous, and it's a nervous gut, and it causes an increase in peristaltic movement. And that means it moves the intestines. It moves the stool really, really fast. And that's not a good thing, right? Causes loose stool. And some people, when they get nervous, they lock up. And when they lock up, they can't digest food very well, everything slows down, and they get constipated. So again, we can look at stress in two ways. And that's why the body is unique. But the body doesn't do a million different things. It's just, in this person, it causes loose stool. In this person, it causes constipation. But again, the same underlying root cause, which is a lot of stress, physical stress, emotional stress, or digestive stress. And again, there are multiple forms of stress. But when I talk about this from a functional medicine, integrative health perspective, there's not a million things to look at. We only look at about a dozen different things in terms of digestive issues, and that's nice because we can simply work the list. We can go down the list, and we know that we're going to be able to figure it out because there's not a million things to figure out. That's it. We look at these dozen things. It's almost the same for everything. I mean, I can give you about 8 things of why you have high blood pressure, about 8 things of why you have high cholesterol, not a million. So again, these things can be figured out, sometimes not in a week, but they could certainly be figured out. So that's the good news. Other reasons for digestive issues or constipation that I see most in my practice, a lot of dairy products. People don't do well with cow's milk for the most part. It can cause constipation in a lot of people. Now, if you have loose stool, sometimes a little bit of sheep-based yogurt or a little bit of goat-based yogurt could do wonders. It can actually help with that constipation. Now, do I recommend that as the first fix? No, but it could be a good temporary solution as you're figuring out your root cause. So, dairy products, especially cow's milk for most people, even children, go back, check out my previous podcast on why dairy is not a health food. You can check out that shows. But if you're dealing with constipation or bloating, Get rid of those dairy products. Same with your children as well. All right, another one, a simple one, right? Not enough fiber in your diet. Men need at least 30 grams of fiber per day. Women need at least 35 grams of fiber per day. Men should get 35 as well. But that's going to be good for the heart. It's going to be good for overall bowel motility. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, motility, again, is moving the stool down the intestinal tract so it doesn't sit there and ferment. And ferment means begin to give off gas, right? If you were to uncork wine, it pops, right? Well, that's the gas coming out. If you were to uncork fermented veggies, it would also pop. Well, there actually is technically. As you open that, the gas is released, and that's fermentation. Okay, so that same thing happens in your intestines. And then what happens? Well, you have gas, right? You either have burping, belching, or you have flatulence. The nice way of putting it. So we're trying to keep this a family show. So that's what we're looking at. But fiber allows enough bulk to move the stool along. That's why some people get constipated in a low-carb diet. Where's the fiber? Fat doesn't have fiber. Protein doesn't have fiber. Carbohydrates have the fiber. So if you take those out of your diet, well, that could lead to some serious intestinal-based issues, especially if meat is allowed to just sit there and ferment in your intestines. But a lot of times, people who are proponents of a high-meat diet never talk about that part of the equation. All right, so next step is this. One thing that really gets those bowels moving is a little bit of movement, a little bit of exercise. Go for a walk in the morning. Well, I'll give you my recommendations in a minute, but people have too sedentary lifestyle, which leads to sometimes not enough peristaltic movement in the intestines. Another big one is this. I work with a lot of people in the medical profession. So about a third of my practice is seeing other doctors in my practice. It's seeing other health professionals, nurses especially. And again, but anyone in the practice. It could be personal trainers. You can't just stop your work. Personal trainers can't just stop their client session, and they usually go 4 or 5 clients in a row. And nurses can't say, I'm sorry, I can't attend to these patients because I need to go use the bathroom, right? I need to go have a bowel movement. Well, they can't. So they resist their urge, and we're just going to say it, poop. They resist their urge to poop. And because of that, it actually shuts off that mechanism, right? You're stopping your body from having a bowel movement, and that can cause constipation as well. Or it can cause bouts of constipation and loose stool. Your body's not regulated, and we're all about regulation, right? The way that the body stays healthy is by staying regular, by staying in a routine, which leads me to my next point. You should be having a bowel movement at pretty much the same time within about a half hour to an hour every single day. And ideally, that's somewhere in the morning. Why? Because your body overnight just removed a whole lot of waste from your system. Not just from the food you ate, but your body removes toxins predominantly through your colon, through your intestines. And that's because your liver filters these things and it drops them then back into the intestines. Why? Because it's very easy. It mixes them with bile and it goes into your intestines. And then those toxins come out through your bowel movements. And that's a very easy way to remove toxins from your body. So you have to be having those bowel movements once a day, twice a day. Again, if anyone ever told you that not having a bowel movement every single day is normal, that would be incorrect, because you can look at any other creature that's similar to a human and you see that they have a bowel movement once to most likely twice to 3 times a day. And that's because after every meal, about 12 to 24 hours, that food, the waste products from that, which is typically bacteria, needs to come out, right? So if anyone has a pet, that pet is having a normal bowel movement once or twice a day, sometimes more. So again, humans are not different from that. Anyone that tells you, oh, you're not supposed to have a bowel movement every day is incorrect. And I'm sorry, but you are, because if you're eating every day, you need to be having a bowel movement every day, or that means your food is just staying in you too long and fermenting, or you're simply not getting enough. So really, really important. All right. Another one is this. Too many people I see in my practice, and I understand it, but they've been using laxatives for too long. They've been using laxatives. I won't go into all the different types of laxatives that you can use, but that throws off your own normal peristaltic movement. That means the movement your body would naturally make to move the stool along, because you've been giving it help all these years. It's kind of like the old analogy of using a weight belt while weightlifting. If you rely on that, then you're not strengthening your own core. Now, I know there's a time and place to use a weight belt, but if you're always using it, your body gets used to using that weight belt, so you're not strengthening your own core. The same with laxatives. If you're using laxatives or enemas all the time, well, your body's not going to get trained to have a bowel movement on its own without the use of a laxative. Other pharmaceuticals that people overlook are antidepressants. That slows everything in your body. Same with a lot of blood pressure meds. So it slows everything in the body. And iron pills, right? A lot of women on iron can absolutely constipate you. Calcium can do the same. Magnesium is the fix for a lot of that, for the calcium especially. A big one too, people on PPIs or other acid blockers. What happens? Well, if you don't produce enough acid in your stomach, and I know that I'm giving you kind of a download today, but I've done other shows on all these things. If you're shutting down the acid in your stomach, you're really doing your body a disservice. I can't go through all of that today. I've done it on a previous show. But what happens is this. You don't produce enough stomach acid, which means the food sits in your stomach longer, begins to ferment, create bacteria. Then when it moves into the intestines, it's not really that acid, so your body doesn't have to drop that much bile down from the liver, gallbladder. And what does that do? Well, it creates stagnation in your liver and gallbladder. And it also doesn't drop as many toxins, and you're not creating that proper balance of pH. Plus, if there's not enough acid coming in, it doesn't create that peristaltic motion in the intestines. So really, really important to look at that. All right. And then I'm just going to give you one more. And a lot of people with low thyroid, think low anything, right? Low energy, low thyroid. All of these things, low thyroid is basically low metabolic weight. Low metabolic rate. It doesn't always have to do with weight gain. That's one symptom sometimes of low thyroid, but it actually is just low metabolic rate. And metabolism is not exclusively weight gain. Metabolism is the movement in the body. Think about how cold the hands and feet get typically with people with low thyroid. Well, that's low metabolic rate, low circulation. It's just low, and that can cause constipation as well. Okay. So what we're really talking about when you have bloating, when you have gas, when you don't do well with digestion, we're talking about some type of IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. If it lasts long enough, they just call it irritable bowel disease. All they're saying is that it's a chronic IBS, and now we're going to call it a disease. Well, they still don't give you the root cause reasons of why. So what we need to do is we need to talk about this. I'm going to give you some real world tips in just a moment. But if you have IBS, again, I can't treat, diagnose, cure disease. That's not within my scope of practice. I don't want to say that I am. But what I can tell you is we can figure out the underlying root causes of why you might have irritable bowels, right? So let's go back and let's figure this out, because this is what we do every single day in our practice. Not once a day, multiple times a day, because we're seeing many, many people every day. And that doesn't include just me. That includes my entire team. My team sees many more people than I do. I simply oversee all of the labs in the practice. So here's what happens. People have some form of digestive distress, low stomach acid, or possibly too much stomach acid. They have low bile dropping down. They have an imbalance in gut bacteria, right? They call that gut dysbiosis. All it means is an imbalance of bacteria in the gut. That's it. Well, really what we're talking about is this. Someone has H. pylori, which is bacterial overgrowth in the stomach. They have parasites in the intestines, or it can move out through other parts of the body. They may have Candida overgrowth, which is a yeast overgrowth in the intestines that can also move into the stomach and esophagus, and also mouth that we call thrush, or they might have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. We'll just call that bacterial overgrowth in the small intestines, which I said previously should be more sterile. Okay, so parasites, H. pylori, Candida, bacterial overgrowth. We're really looking at one of those. We're looking at one of those issues. That's what it is. Sometimes it's just stomach acid issues. Okay, understood. Sometimes it's just stress. However, even those people with just stress, it typically leads then to some type of bacterial overgrowth in the gut because they're not producing enough stomach acid or the food sits there for too long. So we run 3 labs. We run something that we now call the Candida metabolism or metabolic and vitamins test. Okay, we used to call that the organic acids test, but it's so much more than that. We also run the bacteria and parasite test. That's the stool test. And then we run the food sensitivity test. Those are the 3 labs. If you have digestive issues and you run those 3 labs, you will figure out what those underlying root causes are. You will. It's going to tell you, do you have yeast overgrowth? Yes or no? That's what it's going to tell you. Do you have Clostridia bacterial overgrowth? Yes or no? What does your beneficial bacteria look like? High, low, or perfect? Do you have parasites? Yes or no? Do you have H. pylori? Yes or no? Do you have E. coli overgrowth? Yes or no? These labs tell you that. There's no longer a need to guess. 2020, no longer a need to guess, right? We're there, right? We're almost there. So that's the thing. And then food sensitivity testing. What foods are you sensitive to? Not immediately when you eat them, but that could cause digestive distress or skin issues or migraines or immune issues 24 to 72 hours later, right? 3 days ago, what did you have for dinner? I bet you can't remember. That's why these labs are very beneficial. And again, I'll link up all the labs today at stephencabral.com/1349. Now, these labs will tell you exactly what's wrong, all right? And then you go about completing something like the CBO protocol or the parasite protocol or bacterial-based protocols, any of the protocols. And then that helps to rebalance the body, right? We don't treat disease. What we look at is the underlying root cause. Candida, bacteria, whatever it may be, right? Parasites. We'll figure these things out. All right. So let's say that you don't want to start there. I get it. I understand. And that's not an issue at all. I want to help you in any way that I can. So these are a lot of the reasons why people might have IBS or they're constipated right now, and I want to give you what to do. So I alluded to this last Friday. Hopefully you tuned in the Friday review. But what a lot of people are doing right now for constipation and really a lot of the bloating because they can't get the stool out is that, and I'm just going to give you this. So it's a sample day. It's just a place to start. We have something called the Constipation protocol. It's advanced fiber support plus magnesium citrate. And you just take that a half hour before bed. Never cold water. If you have constipated or you have bloating, never cold water, okay? Warm water or hot water, okay? That will keep the bowels moving. Cold water constricts. Warm water flows. That's how you want to think about it, all right? So we're going to do that a half hour before bed. Easy. 1 to 2 teaspoons, magnesium citrate, 2 to 4 advanced fiber capsules. Okay, simple, straightforward. Then when you wake up in the morning, I want you to have a warm or hot cup of tea. Ginger tea is fine. Hot water with lemon is fine. Your daily fruit and vegetable blend is fine. Or what I find even better for people that are constipated is alkalizing vitamin C. You put that in warm water. You can throw in anything else that you want to, but you have 8 to 12 ounces of warm water, and you put in your alkalizing vitamin C, which helps the bowels to get moving as well. Magnesium citrate helps the bowels at night, and it also helps you get in a deep sleep. You can check that out last Friday review. And then the alkalizing vitamin C will help the bowels start to begin moving along, and it boosts immunity. It boosts energy for the day. That's a great thing. All right, next up, you just need to make sure that you are having a liquid-based breakfast, right? You didn't drink anything for the last 10 hours. Get more water in your system. Do a smoothie. I'm telling you right now, it takes less digestive energy. You can use any smoothie brand or whatever you want in the world. That doesn't matter to me. What we do in my practice that I know works is we use the daily nutritional support powder, and then we add in 1 or 2 cups of fruit. Okay, you can use whatever you'd like. Some people that are really constipated, add a couple prunes in. That's fine as well. And you add in 16 ounces of water. You can add in 4 ounces, 6 ounces of additional nut milk if you choose to. Put in your daily nutritional support, blend it up, enjoy, right? And that's it. And you can wait 20 minutes for it to get more up to room temperature if you don't want to drink it cold. That's fine too. So that's easy, right? That's simple. Now, throughout your day, go back and listen to my podcast on when to drink water. I mean, this is legitimate. I know that it seems, just drink water whenever you want. And again, I understand that. I don't want to make things overly complicated as well. But it was on episode 1300. So stephencabral.com/1300. And that will tell you the exact times to drink water throughout the day. But basically, you want your body weight, half your body weight, in ounces of water per day. That's the average person. Okay, get some minerals in there and drink it between meals, essentially. Okay, but again, that podcast will give you the exact details. I can't recommend enough listening to that podcast if you haven't already. The water, again, should be warm water, hot tea, or room temperature, never cold. Okay, not for bloating and constipation-based issues. Now, the other thing is you want to get your body moving. Get those 10,000 steps per day. Walk. Humans are meant to walk. 10,000 steps a day. If you're doing 3,000 now, don't do 10,000 tomorrow. Work up to 4,000, the next week 5,000, slowly work up to 10,000. All right. Exercise would be great too. Love exercise more days than not. Tune into previous shows because I know I'm starting to go long on this. Now, the other thing is this. Don't ignore your urge to have a bowel movement. Okay? If you have to poop, go poop. It's really important, right? Really, really important. Excuse yourself for just a few minutes. Go to the bathroom. If you allow and train your body to go to the bathroom at around the same time every single day, you're going to be able to have a bowel movement and you're going to be in and out of the bathroom in 5 minutes maximum, right? You want it to sit there for 20, 30 minutes. You'll be in and out of the bathroom within minutes. How long does it take for your dog to, have a bowel movement outside when you take him out? A minute. That's it, right? Like humans think that it's supposed to take 20 or 30 minutes. It's not supposed to. You're supposed to have a bowel movement. It takes a couple minutes and then you're out of the bathroom. That's it. That's what it's supposed to be. All right. The last tip I want to give you is this. Make sure that you are getting 2 to 3 cups of vegetables or fruits, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? Try to eat around the same time every single day. Get into a routine. 7 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day. Not only will you most likely live longer, be healthier, lose the weight, but you're going to have normal bowel movements as well. Right now, if you can't digest a lot of vegetables, tune into my previous shows. Figure out why you have those issues. And for sure, if you can't digest carbohydrates right now because they cause bloating, they cause gas, they cause all sorts of IBS issues, there is an issue. There is an issue with either H. pylori, with candida overgrowth, with bacterial overgrowth, maybe parasites, especially if you have loose stool. The lab test will tell you what they are. I can't guess. I don't exactly know. Neither do you. If we run the labs, we'll figure it out together. So I'll link those labs up at stephencabral.com/1349. And again, you can always run the labs with a local functional medicine doctor that specializes in digestion, with a local integrative health practitioner, or with us over at equilibriumnutrition.com. The choice is always yours. I'm here to provide you with the information to let you know why you feel the way you feel, so that you can either take this information for yourself or pass it on to those people that you love and care about. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And as always, if this information was helpful, please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing, and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests, or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.